Try this one more time. It's time to cover an individual who's become kind of a problem lately. So, to give a little bit of backstory, there is an individual called Wisdom of Odin. Now, there are better people who are better equipped to handle this than me, but because there are people who I know who are handling this, I figured it's probably a good idea for me to go ahead and do so, as well as I have a perspective and a problem with this individual too. The individual is Wisdom of Odin. He is a polytheist YouTuber who, from what I understand, recently, as in like about a year or two, converted to his version of Norse paganism. But there's a bit of speciality here. You see, most of the time when you're on my channel, I'm very friendly to pagans. I don't generally do a lot of stuff in regards to pagans, because for the most part, I don't have an issue. There are some issues, though. One of the big ones is that this particular pagan YouTuber seems to be in line with a very specific organization. Now, there was a time where me and Ocean on the Hammered Out podcast had Aleakai on to talk about the YSEE and their affiliations with the AFA, the Astora Folk Assembly. Now, the AFA, if I were to just be blunt, are basically pagan Nazis. They are pagan white supremacists. They believe that their bloodlines are of certain purity, and therefore the gods communicate with them better because of their genealogy. Now, I got a handful of problems with that, obviously. One, that's just racism, right? That's just racism. Secondly, more importantly, as opposed to it just being racism, there's also the issue where if you're going to have gods, why would you strip them of their power by making it to where they're only associating with people who have bloodlines associated with them? And these bloodlines seem to almost always be some form of white, strangely enough. But what we're going to do today is we're going to stop poisoning that well. We're going to go over a video from Wisdom of Odin, and then we're going to go into some of the recommendations that he's had and some of the problems with those. Now, the AFA, like I've already mentioned, is an issue, and if you want to know more about them, Aleakai and Ocean have videos on this where it's concerned. But suffice to say, if you are a pagan, there is something called, I believe, Declaration 126 or 127 that says, hey, Frith is not going to be held with anybody who actually endorses or affiliates themselves with the AFA, because they are known to be, not to be hyperbolic, Nazis. So, with that said, we're going to go ahead and jump into Wisdom of Odin's video, Why Paganism? What do the gods do for us? And Ocean has let me know it is Declaration 127. Consider this the dangers of WoO, whereas WoO is Wisdom of Odin, not necessarily pseudoscience. But let's go. Got his little channel opening here. I don't care about it.
To just jump right into it, the topic I want to discuss today is what do the gods do for us as practitioners of these faiths?
So, this is going to be interesting because I've actually seen this video already. Some of the stuff that he's going to mention is really awkward, but I don't want to poison that well anymore.
Because there's a reason that we follow these faiths, these spiritualities, is because the gods do something, because there is something tangible and real. And it was the same way for the ancestral people that practiced these religions, that followed polytheistic and pagan religions. They did it for a reason. And of course, from what we've seen from history, what we've experienced is that most pagan faiths eventually died out, were taken over by Christianity, or at least were put into hiding until they revitalized here in the modern era. So what
said background music's loud as fuck. I literally have it as low as you know what? Boom. It's just gone. Fuck you.
I want to first look at is way back to the original pagan faiths that we know very little about, only know that they were the root for what we follow now as modern practitioners, and see what they would have talked to the gods about, what they would have asked of the gods, what, the reason they followed these faiths and beliefs, or the reason they had problems following these faiths and beliefs that eventually led to them giving it up for more monotheistic religions such as Christianity or Islam. Ancient customs. Why did
wait,
people
hold on. You said gave up these religions for Christianity and Islam? Christianity and Islam were both carried by the sword. Nobody gave up their religions for them. They were forced converted.
All these pagan gods, or what do they ask of the gods that made them feel like they are real? What gave them hundreds and thousands of years,
You could have edited that out, dude.
Thousands of years of community history. I've not had enough beer yet. See, the problem is, I'm doing multiple takes, so it's not just one drink, it's like multiple drinks, because then all of a sudden I forget what I'm supposed to say.
Okay.
But I wanted to drink a beer for this episode. Anyways, ancient customs. So actually I wrote a list. Just so I actually got all this down and actually said it all. This is the list I made in my mind and wrote down on what it seemed that most people asked the gods, at least back then, and what we can infer.
Wait, you made the list in your mind and then you went up. Wait, where are you sourcing this from?
That they asked from the gods. So with the seasons, they usually ask for weather predictions or to change the weather to favor crops.
That literally every culture that has ever had gods has done that. What?
Or to end droughts, or to end monsoons and wet seasons. So they would ask for weather advice, weather guidance. They would ask for fortune.
Again, literally every culture that has ever had gods has asked for that.
They would ask assistance in acquiring great wealth, or perhaps even, more cattle or more crops and things like that. They asked for the good, more things that would be considered make someone wealthy back then.
What is this?
And then, of course, we have the other side of that, which is luck.
Oh my fuck! This is literally just shit that people ask for from God today. These are things people... Okay, no. Listen. These are things people have historically, any culture that has ever existed, that has had a god, that has any amount of prayer and reciprocation of any kind, these things have been asked for. We are 2 minutes and 31 seconds into a nothing burger. You are telling your people nothing. There is nothing interesting here.
Luck in endeavors, luck in ways of life and death. Of course, right now we live in a wonderful time where, child mortality rates and, mothers dying during childbirth are quite low. I mean, the lowest we've, at least know in human history. But back before we had modern sciences, there was a high chance that a mother would die giving childbirth.
And okay, yes, and so people prayed that their children wouldn't die. That's normal. WoO, that's normal.
Common to see a family of 10 go to a family of 5 just because of life. Life is due.
Can we get
back? Birth and fertility were things that people asked from the gods quite often. And with death.
Birth and fertility. Jesus Christ. You know that the Abrahamic faiths literally have stories entirely built around infertile people praying that they can get... The story of Abraham is about an infertile dude trying to get his fertility back. This is... You're saying nothing to your audience.
Asking to visit loved ones, or even, speaking of illness and how to prevent death. Oh, my grandmother is sick, please heal them, gods. Things like that. Or even just questions of the afterlife. Can I contact my loved ones? Can I reach out in times of sorrow? As we feel now, people grieve for their loved ones. People, were happy when there was a new birth in the family. So they went through these same emotions, but they didn't have the modern understandings that we have of science. So they had to go to the gods for this advice and for, just seeking advice.
Okay.
And then you had general protection in war, protection against disease.
So if it's okay with everybody, I'm going to go ahead and try to move ahead in his video, because these things that people asked God about... This doesn't seem to be anything substantial. This is literally him pulling things out of his butt that people ask God for every day, in every society, in every culture, in every religion that has gods that answer prayers in this way. So we're going to go ahead and stop saying the same thing, and we're going to push forward.
for the next 7 days to some level of accuracy. This is something that you had to ask the gods about. And now, you can get predictions of basically all year round of what the weather's going to be like. And fortune, this is a silly example, but it is true. Think of how many YouTubers exist out there that tell you how to get rich quick, or, how to live that millionaire lifestyle, or, I see an ad all the time. It's like, how do I make $10,000 from sitting in a coffee shop? This is something that the gods no longer take part of.
Wait, is this the Richard Dawkins of polytheism? Is this dude right here? This is the same point that Richard Dawkins made in the God Delusion, when it didn't have a full understanding of pagan faiths, especially not post-construction ones. This is weird. He's literally just giving us information that everyone has, pulling stuff out of his butt, and then in this particular scenario, he's literally saying things that Richard Dawkins would have said. Here, I'm just going to go ahead and do this, so we've got the still. There we go. You know what? Yeah. You just became a thumbnail.
We go to other people that are more successful than us for their advice, so we don't need the gods anymore, right? And then you have life and death. When child mortality rates and birth-giving mortality rates were so high, you had to go to the gods for guidance. But now we've lowered those numbers with science, so it's less of a concern. But also we can do a lot of predictions with science and with modern medicine that can help show how a child is going to develop, how well a mother's going to handle the pregnancy. So we became less reliant on the gods on that.
Why are you focused so much on the pregnancy stuff? Also, is this... Wait, which one of these do we take? Which one of these do we have to take for the actual thing? What the heck? I'm torn. I kind of want this one now. This is horrible. Why have I done this to myself? There's no reason I should have done this to myself. You know what? We'll figure this out later, WoO. The only reason that I'm okay taking these stills of you is because, well, you didn't announce the AFA. And that makes you a Nazi in my book.
And then with divination, you see this across the board, with the weather. This is something that is done by science, been done by other people. We don't really need the gods for that anymore. We don't really need to have advice divinated to us.
So, okay, from an atheist perspective, right? Everybody who's here in the audience who's a pagan knows that I am an atheist, so this is not going to come as any major revelation. But from an atheist perspective, you never actually got any advice, WoO. Classically, gods did not deliver advice to you at all from an atheist perspective. But in any case, when you say that science has replaced these things, you don't need your gods to do things because science has done them. Again, this is literally just a Richard Dawkins atheist take. This is you're a polytheist, you're a pagan, you're telling us about your religion, but you're telling us vapid things that anybody could pull out of their butt for any religion. Like I said, with reciprocative prayer, anything. And yet, the stuff you're giving us, it's like you read the God Delusion and you're giving us paganism as Richard Dawkins explained it.
And then, with the advice thing, we have so many people out here. Shoot, here I am filming a video right now, giving advice. You don't necessarily need to run to an elder to your...
Wait, hold on. That's a little weird. Okay, so this is kind of a strange takeaway. But if your point, the framing, right? If you're framing this as, these are the things that have replaced gods, and then one of those things is advice, and then you say, look here, I'm giving you advice. Maybe it's a bit of a straw man, but it sounds almost like you're saying you replaced a god? And that's a little yikesy for me.
Community or a grandparent or the gods to seek advice. And I think that's why paganism as a whole began to die out, is because...
You think that paganism as a whole began to die out because technology? That does not follow. Christianity and Islam have been flourishing in the wake of technology. Paganism is a religion just like them, There's no reason that it should die out because of technology if other religions did not do the same. This is a post hoc ergo proctor hoc thing. Post hoc ergo proctor hoc. Because a thing happened previously and then another thing happened, you're assuming that that thing that just happened necessarily is because of the thing that happened previously. But if we have other examples of the thing that happened previously, the technology improving, where what you're saying happened, it didn't happen, you're saying that your religion slowly got replaced by technology, then that right there shows that you're not being logical here.
You started having these human replacements for the things that gods used to do for us. And in general,
and
this is a generalization as an example for that. What we see, I believe, that is quite common is when paganism and the traditional pagan religions, I say pagan just because it's the most generic term I can think of for the pre-Christian, tribal, cultural, village religions of the people in, from 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago. In the term of heathenry, it's the pre-Christian Scandinavian and Germanic society and whatnot, but before Christianity. But also, the term before Christianity is before true civilization.
What is this here? True Western civilization. So, maybe I've been dealing with actual Nazi types for far too long. But when I see something like this, when I see true Western civilization, I immediately think that I'm gonna get some alt-right dumb-ass talking point. Because Western civilization has been a dog whistle for people like Richard Spencer for ages. Also, Ocean brings up a point in the chat. You know what was a not village that had polytheistic religions? Rome. Greece. Athens. Like, what? There are places... There are plenty of societies that were polytheistic and large and sprawling that were not villages. What? Are you okay? Did you get your history out of a fortune cookie? Did you read it off the back of a cereal box?
Because the moment you started having figurehead leaders, kings that had, uniform, authority over a region, in this, time of monarchy, that is when Christianity really began to step up, when it became the class divide that, even we see now.
Wait. Rome, there were plenty of polytheistic societies with monarchs. What? How is this a point? How is this a point? What? The kings were a Christian thing to you?
Now, is that there are people that are better than other people, and the gods give them favor. And then that started switching over to the god gives them favor. This is
fucking Richard Dawkins' misunderstanding of the history of these events. This is just somebody who read the God Delusion who's given it. This guy is just reciting the God Delusion to you. If you're a pagan, this guy is just reciting Dawkins. This idea that... Because this is a thing that I used to believe as well until I started meeting actual pagans who actually studied the history of this, who actually looked into how this stuff changed over time. The Dawkins version of this is very, there were once many religions and they worshipped gods that lived on Mount Olympus, and then they discovered that the gods could not live on Mount Olympus because they scaled Mount Olympus, and then after finding that out, the Christianity came in because the god was now outside of the world, and that worked. And that's no. Dude, this is literally just if an atheist read the God Delusion and then wanted to grift a bunch of pagans, this is what he would do. This is what he would do. This is what would happen if you got an atheist grifting pagans. Awkward.
A generalization, but this is something that we have seen, is that Christianity tended to spring up in places where unified rule became more prevalent.
Because it was pushed by the sword. Christianity... Okay, look, so here's the thing. The reason Christianity spread so well is because it is a very portable religion. It's not tied to a location. It's not tied to a people. Christianity, by its design, is a portable religion that is meant to be evangelized. That's how it functions. Whereas many of your polytheistic traditions do not have evangelism built into their blood. They are not as portable. Many of their things are built on region, or were built on region before we had to deal with Reconstruction. So you're trying to give this comparison between monotheism and monarchy, but that's not the reason Christianity spread. It wasn't just because more feudalism meant more Christianity. We had polytheistic faiths during all of that as well.
Became less of a cultural thing. Political decisions and community decisions no longer became that. They became the decisions of a one governing body. And so a one governing body...
You brought up Rome. What? Rome is not an argument in your favor.
Loves a one god body as well, because it gives people less individuality, less of a reason to say, oh, we should get a vote in things. And Rome...
What? What? Monotheism means less individuality and what? I'm breaking. This man is breaking me.
Was a great example of this as well. Rome was a polytheistic society that eventually fell and was replaced by a monotheistic society. But why now? Let's bring it back to...
Wait. This hurts a little bit. So you acknowledge that Rome was a polytheistic society, but your previous point was that these were pagan village faiths. I can tell you're doing this unscripted. And I know because I do my shit unscripted.
Modern times. Why are we going back to paganism when science answers all these questions for us? When science has these ideals? And this is a question I've been...
Science doesn't have ideals. It has methods. You're hurting me.
Playing with, for a while now, of why did I go to paganism? Why, for me personally, did I go to it? I'm a man of science. I have much respect for science and everything it does. I love astronomy. I love geology.
Fucking Hellenism loves science too. These are not contradictions.
Oceanography. I have many friends in this community that are very scientifically minded, historically minded, and yet they're all going back to paganism. And I do believe it's because...
These are not... Okay, look. No. Religion and science are not enemies unless one makes an enemy of the other. Religion deals with issues of spirituality and deals, in some cases, issues of supernaturality. Okay? Whether or not you believe those things exist, that's on you. Science deals with the natural world. It does not deal with ethics. It does not deal with philosophy. It is a branch off of philosophy. Scientific methodology is literally a philosophical construction. Religion tends to deal more with the philosophy, tends to deal more with your ethics, tends to deal more with other things. These are categorically separate things. It is basically an evangelical Christian issue that science and faith are naturally enemies. This is coming from an atheist. The idea that science and faith are enemies, or that you somehow have to comport science to your faith, that is a Christian thing. That's an evangelical Christian thing. You don't have to make these compromises. This is like if somebody just read The God Delusion and then wanted to grift pagans. This is what they would say. This is very... I don't want to say you're not a pagan, but this is not something I've heard from literally any other pagan I know.
Because we're finding out there are things that, one, can't be explained by science and modern thought.
Like what? Like what? Name one. Name one thing that is categorically within science's realm that it cannot explain. Not has not explained, that it cannot explain. And modern thought. Define modern thought. Oh, no, you're not going to. This is pulled out of your butt.
And two, I think it's because these things that we have figured out are not fulfilling. And by that, I mean...
Wait. They're not fulfilling? In what way? What things? Define these!
I mean, like, yes, you can look at the weather every single day. You can look at, tomorrow it is going to rain. Tomorrow it is going to snow. The next day it's going to be sunny. You can look those things up. But is it as fulfilling knowing every time it rains?
What? What? WoO, I'm very confused. What the fuck does that mean? Your argument is that it's more fulfilling to have the RNG of life? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but you do know that even when you know the weather, the RNG is still there, right? I'm gonna try to go forward. My brain is breaking.
Or is it nice to go outside, not know what the weather's going to be like, and then to rain on you and to experience the natural order of life, or life without weather prediction?
Oh my god. Is this literally just return to monkey? Is your whole argument reject modernity, return to monkey?
I haven't looked at the weather forecast in quite some time. When this ice storm happened, I didn't know. I just woke up and I'm like, there's an ice storm.
What does that have to do with polytheism? What does that have to do with paganism? What does that have to do? You know that early societies tried to predict weather too, right? It wasn't a fucking religious thing to just not predict weather. I'm so confused.
Obviously, no, not everyone can, be that laissez-faire about the weather. Some people have to commute to work and things like that. But I do think that
I'm an atheist and I don't look up the weather because I work from home. This is what is this even supposed to be?
There is more magic in just letting the weather be weather.
Wait. This almost sounds like an argument straight from feelings. The reason you became a pagan is because things felt more magical. Isn't the title of this video What the Gods Do for Us? Because all you've explained so far is willful delusion. It is better for you to live in this version of reality where things just magically happen. And you're admitting that. This isn't... Like, none of this is what I've heard from literally any other pagan in regards to why they believe or what the gods do for them. Can someone get this man's? Whose man's is this? Whose man's is this? Get your man's.
Same thing with, births and deaths. I'm not a father, plan to be a father. And, to me, yes, I will go to the doctors, I will go to the pediatricians, I will know, all the fatherly things I need to do to make sure my children are born well.
Would you like to explain what any of those are? Would you like to do that, or is this just going to be vapid?
But at the same time, I'm still going to bring in the religious aspects to make sure that, this is a creation of a life. Why should religion not be brought into a creation of life?
Depends on the religion. Moreover, on top of that, I have a question here. What is this fascination with creation of life and your religion together? What is the fascination there?
It's truly amazing. And I think that when you just leave...
It is amazing, but it's amazing because we know why it happens now.
Things like the creation of a human being up to pure science, it removes some of the magic. And so I think that is kind of the overall thing with paganism, is we're trying to return to the old magics, because there used to be a...
You're not describing magic, though. WoO! None of what you've described is magic. You're literally just describing feelings. You are just describing feelings. None of what you've described is functionally magic. You've just said it feels better to let RNG do its thing. What you've basically explained, functionally, is that it is better for you If you, as a person, leave your life up to random chance and die rolls, here, I'll show you exactly what you're doing. See this right here? Well, if it's gonna work, never mind. It's not gonna work. That camera's frozen. I thought I'd be able to show you, but apparently I can't because that camera's not working. I was going to roll some die, and it was going to be a funny joke, even though I don't have very good humor to begin with. But apparently, I cannot do that. Apparently not. Oh well.
Deeper level of spiritual understanding to how all these things in life. We may not have understood them scientifically as well, but there was more meaning to it. And I think that's what we're trying to find is we labeled out the universe. We figured out how things work. We know what a black hole is. We know there are multiple planets and thousands and millions of stars and solar systems and galaxies. But does that give us meaning?
It can. Depends on who you are.
And I think that's what we started questioning in ourselves as soon as we started figuring all these things out in the 1900s, is does knowing the inner workings of the universe give us meaning?
It can. It depends on who you are.
And I believe that's where we, as pagans in general, from all the pagan faiths, began to question and began to seek answers elsewhere, that there is more to life than science and numbers. They're important, but they are not the meaning of life.
Okay, so there's two things here. One, you said the meaning of life. The meaning of life. If you're constantly looking for the meaning of life, I hate to tell you, but you are probably not going to find it. My opinion is that we each make our own individual meaning in life. You can argue that life is meaningless ultimately, and that's fine, but it's also not useful. WoO, what you have said so far is that it's better to live a life of wonder. Okay, cool, but there's nothing about science that says that you can't. In fact, for many people, knowing the inner workings of things make them all the more wonderful. I know for me, stripping something down to its parts and knowing how each individual piece operates makes it more wonderful for me. It may not be for you, but it's not a good argument to say, I went to religion merely because I was not satisfied with science. Science categorically doesn't come up into that question at all. If science came up into that conundrum for you, you were already doing things wrong because it's categorically not part of that. It's not your spirituality. But let's see what else he has to say.
And is this not the question that humans have asked since the dawn of time? What is the meaning of life? And to some, maybe it is science. And to some, maybe there is no deeper meaning. Maybe we're all just molecules.
Holy shit, you actually acknowledge it.
But I think the more we understand about science, the more we see how this universe works, the more we realize that's not true. In this video...
Wait, hold on. That's a contradiction, though. WoO, you said, to some people, maybe science and deconstructing things are the meaning of life, but as we do science and deconstruct things, we discover that's not true. Which is it? Is the meaning of life something ontological, outside of ourselves, or is it something epistemological from within, based on our own personal theories of truth? Which one is it? Because you're mixing these things up. You are literally juggling them, and not landing on one or the other.
What do the gods do for us? What do the gods...
You haven't answered that all video. Maybe after 11 minutes and 26 seconds, it's time.
...do for us modern practitioners of pagan faiths that make us still want to follow them, even though we can explain a lot of these things through science. And I really do think it's...
There's nothing... Oh my god. Dude. You keep trying... You keep saying this as if science and paganism are in an arena and one of them has to win out here. This hurts my brain. This is not how things work. And you're looking all like introspective and you've got your background music going. It's all It's all very thought-provoking. None of this is thought-provoking though. This just hurts the brain.
Because of meaning and experience. There are things that have happened to me on my pagan path that I can't really explain with science, and nor do I really want to. There are moments in my life...
Okay, could you define one of those? Could you tell us one of those? That'd be cool. Seriously, letting us know what one of those things would be would probably help a lot.
That I've been sitting around a fire with my friends and folk in the community and made some realizations or felt some things or heard some things that, can't be explained, nor do I want to explain them.
Are you not certain that it's that they could be explained, but you just don't want to know? Again, and you're not saying what any of these things are, so there's no way for literally anybody in your audience to engage in any type of critical thought where these sayings are concerned. There's no way for any of them to actually figure out if something that you have experienced or something that you believe could be explained by science better than by religious thought. There's no way, because you're not defining any of these things. You're just saying some things. I heard some things. I felt some things. Could you maybe clue us into what some of those some things are?
And I really do think that the pagan paths allow us to explore life with an open mind and with open eyes, and a deeper understanding of why all of this exists. And that's a tree out there. Earth's connected to it. Below that is, crust and mantles and a core of a planet. And yeah, that's really cool science, but also, is that not really cool magic?
How is that magic? How?
We're on a giant floating ball contained by an invisible shield that floats around
That's called atmosphere. We've explained that.
the universe around a giant ball of fire.
Because the giant ball of fire has gravity. Because it has mass. That's not magic, WoO!
Sure, that's science. But also, that's some pretty darn cool magic.
You're just... Define magic, dumbass! Blitzkrieg has it right in the chat. You're conflating magic with wonder. That's not magic! That's just you being impressed! That is just you being impressed! And you're right, Gainer, it's not fire, it's a ball of plasma! Thank you for the 8th grade take!
I think that's why we're pagan. Because we realize...
You're pagan because you couldn't figure out why you were being flung through space? Okay.
that sitting on a giant ball of earth, water, magma, floating around a giant ball of fire, is pretty darn cool. And that maybe there's a way to connect to all those things. And let me tell you, when you can start connecting to the greater picture, it's pretty darn cool. And what the gods do for us is help us understand things that can't be quantified. So,
you haven't given us any understanding. This is faith balanced on a feather.
To things that cannot be quantified, and all hail the pagan path. Let's go.
You've given us nothing, though. All hail what? You've given us 13 minutes and 3 seconds of a nothing burger. You said people prayed for things, and then you've conflated science and religion, and then you conflated wonder and magic, but you didn't actually get us anywhere. What was the point of this video? What was even the message? What were you even saying? Oh my gosh. Maybe it would be better for actual pagans to handle this. But at the same time, from an atheist perspective, this just hurts. This sounds to me like somebody who decided to be pagan a handful of years ago after reading Richard Dawkins, and he wanted to have his childlike wonder back from Disney, and he couldn't get it back in reality, so that he stepped into a religion, but he doesn't understand that religion. He has ideas about what that religion did in history, but he's pulling them out of his butt. This is... If you are a new pagan, if you have just become a heathen or a Hellenist or however you end up being, which, whatever, and this is the channel you stumble on, without knowing any of the sources for any of this, I can see how maybe this is palatable. But for somebody who actually hangs around pagans, and somebody who actually engages in their conversations, this hurts my brain, because I don't know a single pagan who actually talks like this, thinks like this. And it just hurts. It just hurts my brain meats. They're sloshing around in my head, and they're in pain. They're in pain. But with all that said, that is the end of that particular video. If you enjoyed this at all, if this is something that you would like to see me return to, I know I've got a couple of other things on WoO that I'm going to be taking on, but for now, this is the end of this particular bit as we've gone over this video. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comment section below. If you got any critique, let me know. I know that I am an atheist jumping into this, and this is more of a pagan thing, so it's hard for me to actually handle this correctly. But with all that said, if you enjoyed, hit the like button, hit subscribe if you haven't already, hit the bell notification icon, and check the description if you'd like to support my channel. But with all that said, as always, everyone, insert end of video tagline here.